Welcome to part first of our AR15 modeling tutorial. I am your host Fazal Wahab, and in this video we will be starting with the basics of modeling the muzzle and barrel. We will cover the fundamental tools and techniques needed to create these components. So let's get started. For the reference of the size of a rifle that give us an idea of how long the model will be, first we will add a plane by Shift A, mesh and plane. Now scale it down on y-axis by pressing S, Y and find 9, and scale on z-axis by 0.2. So now we have the reference that how long will be a rifle. Let's start by modeling the muzzle of the rifle. For this, press Shift A, mesh and add a circle, open the menu and set the number of vertices to 24. Now go to edit mode and select all the vertices and rotate the circle on x-axis by 90 degree by pressing R, X and 90. Go to side view by pressing the numpad 3 key and scale it down, and then grab it to the one side of the reference by pressing G and Y key. Okay, select all the edges by A and fill it by pressing the F key. Now select all by A and extrude on Y axis a little and scale it down a little bit, then add some edge loops by pressing the Ctrl plus R key. Select these two pieces on the sides and insert them by pressing the I key and moving mouse downward, then and loop tool and then bridge them. And then add some edge loops to the inside of the mesh by Ctrl R. Now select all by A and press Shift N to recalculate the normals, and then select the two edge loops and press Ctrl B. Okay, save the file by Ctrl S and name it as you wish. Now add some edge loops, and between the loops select the past loops and move it on Y to create more space for some details. Okay, now add some more edge loops by Ctrl R near the existing loops that acts as supporting loops. You can see here the bevel is wider and we need a smaller bevel, so for this purpose we need to select the edge loops by either Alt left mouse button or just double click and press the period key and set the pivot point to 3D cursor. Now select the outer edge loops and press S, Y and 0, and now bevel it with a small width. Select these 4 edge loops and bevel them with a smaller width. Then select these two past loops and shrink it inward by pressing the Alt S key and drag mouse inward. Now to make it a little wider, it out and narrow it the inner side, press the period key, make pivot as individual origin and scale both on y-axis. Select the inside loops and bevel them as well. Now add another edge loop by pressing Ctrl R and move it toward the other loop so it support the other. Select these 3 past loops and shrink them inward by Alt S. Select the 2 edge loops and press Ctrl B to bevel them. Select the 2 past loop and press Alt S to shrink, and then select this edge loop and press Ctrl B to bevel it. Select the outer 7 edge loops and bevel them as well. Okay, so to make a rectangular hole up here, we need a Boolean object, so go to object mode and by tab and press Shift A and mesh and cube. To add a cube, scale it down, position it by G and scale a little on Z axis, then by pressing /forward key to go to solo mode, and then select these 4 edges and press Ctrl plus B to bevel them with 3 segments. Now shade it auto smooth by left click and auto smooth in object mode. You can also find the shade or the smooth option by going to object data properties and under the normal just enable it. Okay, so before we make it bool tool, select the bool object cube first and then the muzzle mesh and press Ctrl minus. We will put our boolean object in a separate collection so that we can easily hide or unhide them after our work is done. So for this purpose, press the M key, select new collection and name it whatever you want and then move the boolean object to that. Select all the cutter objects and move them to the cutter collection by M. So let's add a little circular hole up here. For this purpose, go to edit mode and select this space and press shift plus D to duplicate it and press P to separate by selection. Go to object mode and select only the small plane. Make sure remove the boolean modifier from it and go to edit mode, then subdivide with 2 level of subdivision, and now select all by pressing the A key and move it on Z axis and make pivot point to individual origin and scale it on Z axis to 0 to flatten it and position it on the center. Now right click and loop tool and make it a circle, then extrude it down so it passes through the thickness of the muzzle and then shade it out smooth. Then scale it down a little and apply the scale. Select first the cutter object and then the mesh and press Ctrl minus. Now press shift plus D to duplicate it and move to the right side and then select the first. Press shift plus S to move the cursor to the selected and press period key to make pivot point as the 3D cursor and select the cylinder, duplicate it and scale on X by -1. First select both the circular object then the mesh and press Ctrl minus. Now go to edit mode and select the lower vertices and move them on Z axis a little so that it passes through the muzzle thickness. Okay, go to edit mode of the mesh and select the edge loops, press shift S and cursor to select it. Now go to object mode and select the 3 cutter objects and make pivot point as the 3D cursor and press shift D to duplicate them and scale them as SZ-1. As all the 3 are selected, select the mesh and press Ctrl minus. Okay, so select all the 6 boolean objects and move them to the cutter collection by M. Okay, now add some edge loops to the frontal end side of the mesh by Ctrl R and now go to paste select mode, select alternate paste loops and extrude them by E. Right click to escape it and press Alt S to shrink it outward. Select the edge loop on the back side and bevel it, then the inside paste loop and scale it down to narrow the hole. Okay, so we have completed the muzzle object. Now it's time to model the barrel. Go to edit mode of the muzzle and select the small edge loop on the back side and press shift plus D to duplicate it and extrude on Y axis a little. Now select the linked vertices by pressing the L key and then press the P key to separate the selection. Select the edge loops by shift alt left click or double click and press the E key to extrude it on Y axis that's long enough the length of a barrel. Add some more edge loops in the middle. Go to paste select mode and these paste loops. Press shift D to duplicate it and scale it a little on X and Z axis. And press E to extrude, then right click to leave it, then press Alt S to shrink inward like this and change pivot point to individual origin and then scale it on Y axis. Press L to select length vertices and duplicate it and move on Y axis to the other end. Go to top view by 7, select these 12 passes like 6 on each side of the middle edge loop. Go to side view by numpad 3 and extrude it on Z axis Add some edge loops by Ctrl R up here. Go to pace mode by 3 and select the top paces. Scale it on x-axis a little. Now add 2 edge loops vertically and 2 horizontally by Ctrl plus R like this. Select these 8 paces and with the right mouse click and loop tool make a circle of them, then extrude it and move to the end like this. Select the lower 12 faces, extrude it on z-axis and grab on z-axis and then scale it on z-axis to 0 to flatten it. Select it by L, press Shift D to duplicate it and scale it on y-axis by -1 to flip it and then move it to the other end. Join both the upper 5s by selecting the edges and bridging them, then position it like this. Shade it out smooth and move the lower vertices of the second and then add edge loops to both. To add a little more detail on barrel, add some more edge loops near the muzzle and select alternate faces and press extrude, then right click, then alt S, then bevel the edge loops. Press Shift A, mesh and plane to add a plane, then scale it down like this and then scale up on Y a little. In object mode apply the scale and in edit mode select all vertices by Ctrl Shift B, bevel each vertices by making the corners of that plane round. Okay, scale it down a little on x-axis and now press A, then X and delete only the faces and then press Ctrl F to grid palette, then extrude it down a little, then go to select and select sharp edges and bevel them. Now position and scale it and align it to the barrel. Select both and press Ctrl minus, and if it doesn't work, go to modifier setting and switch from exact to past. If your mesh contains multiple modifiers, just delete all of them and then add this modifier. Now select the bool object. Make sure to make the pivot point as 3D cursor. Select the bool object and press Shift D to duplicate it, then rotate it on y-axis by 90 degree as RY90 and repeat that again 2 times. Now select all the 3 bool objects, then the barrel mesh and press Ctrl minus. Go to the modifier setting and change solver option from exact to past per all, and this will resolve the problem. Select all the 4 objects, move the bool objects to the cutter collection by M. That's all for part first. We have successfully modeled the muzzle and barrel of our AR-15 rifle. In the next video, we will be moving on to the handguard. Thanks for watching and please subscribe to our channel.